this particular episode is about movie locations.
Yes.
And Queens movie locations, which you are a Queens native. And we got three films on tap today. Coming to America, Men in Black, and Goodfellas. And, we've been walking all week, visiting these locations and thinking about these three films. And we kind of came to the conclusion that they are three good examples of different types of movies as far as movie locations go, which is to say, like, you have Goodfellas, which is there's like 1,000 locations all over the city,
and all over Queens, like the whole borough of Queens. It's almost like they're really living in it. When they filmed that,
for sure. And then there's Men in Black, which is like a type of movie where there's like one iconic location,
Yes.
and then there's Coming to America, which is the example of movie locations that are no longer there, where it's like they've been demolished. And that's a pretty common thing in New York City too, because there's so much turnover constantly.
Well, and also those movies are a little bit older too, so I think that's why I did a little research into it as well, and I was recollecting when I watched those movies, and I was like, these locations don't exist because that was like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So.
Yeah, and the Coming to America also I think is kind of funny because one of the main plots of the movie is that Eddie Murphy is coming to America specifically to Queens to find his bride. To find his queen. And the place that they arrive, the first place they show up after the airport, is not in Queens. It's actually in Williamsburg. And the whole point of the movie is like, he's in Queens. What better place than Queens? But it's funny because it's like, they could have just said, go to Brooklyn. And it would have been accurate. But for some reason, like in writing the story, they wanted it to be Queens, but then they didn't actually want to film it in Queens, then they still wanted to film it in Brooklyn, which I wonder why. Like, I wish we could also find out from them why, but it's just a funny example to me of like, they want it to sound like Queens, but they want it to look a specific way, and that specific way isn't actually Queens.
The location for his house is on Hooper Street, I believe, in Williamsburg, off like the Hughes J. And I don't know, I mean, from my understanding of Williamsburg then, it was, but like kind of like a lot of New York City at the time, there were vacant buildings everywhere, And so I guess that maybe they were able to get it cheap. Maybe the building is kind of like isolated from everything, so maybe that felt like a convenient thing for filming. I'm not really sure, but they probably could have found something similar in Queens, but for whatever reason they picked Williamsburg instead. And it's that's not too far away from Queens.
It's really like almost on the border. It's close enough. And hey, it's a great movie. It looks good. Like the location scout did a good job. I just think it's funny.
Still 718.
Still 718.
Still 718.
Well, we're gonna go out of our way one day this week, or just to capture some video of it for this podcast, just so people can see what it looks like. But that's just because we're industrious, hardworking people. Otherwise, the other locations, like we said, there's only a couple that we visit on this particular route, and one of them is the location of the McDonald's ripoff, McDowell's, which, as I said, does not exist anymore as a location. It was a Wendy's up until 2013, and then it became
condos.
Yeah, it's just condos.
Yeah,
right now.
it's just a block of condos now. So
they look nice. I'll give it to them. And it's right near a mall. I don't know if the mall was. I don't think the mall was there. It was just kind of a strip. There was also some buildings in the movie. There are some buildings across the street where the Soul Glow billboards are. That's the hair product that Lisa's boyfriend. He's like the family empire is the Jerry Curl product. Those buildings are gone too. But it's still like that Queens Boulevard section kind of still retains some of I guess what I think of as the essential Queens Boulevard, which is just like busy roadway, you know, with lots of cars going back and forth.
And like the people are Frogger, and you just have to kind of
Yeah.
Right.
you have to get around, you have to get across the 18 lanes before you. Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
It's pretty much like
exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in contrast to that, there's the Men in Black, where you go to Flushing Meadows Park and see those towers. And even I was saying before we were recording, I only saw Men in Black for the first time this week, because I was always scared that it was really scary. I always thought it was like a really scary movie. But every time we'd go to Flushing Meadows Park, Mike would point out the towers and say, "Oh, it's from Men in Black." And I was always like, "Well, I thought it was from the World's Fair." But now that do you spend much time in that park? And I'm curious what your relationship is to those.
Actually, after I had kids, I do spend more time in that park
You
because
do?
it's just a good place to go. Actually, after kids and COVID, I think I spend more time in that park because it's outdoors. It's close to our home, and plus there's parking. There's parking right there around the ice skating
Right.
rink, and then we can just walk right into the like where the globe is, and then where the dishes are, and well, it's not Shea Stadium anymore. It's Citi Field.
Right.
So yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and when you see those old towers,
Yep.
do you think World's Fair or do you think Men in Black? or do
Actually,
you-
I think more Men in Black
yeah.
because I wasn't around during the 1969 World. Yeah. So we weren't around during that time. So yes, I think Men in Black too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a nice walk around the park this week with a fellow YouTuber called Action Kid. We were on his channel a few weeks back, and that was really great. And he has like 275,000 followers. So it was nice because a bunch of them showed up over on our channel.
Yeah.
And if you're watching us today, thanks for stopping by. We love hanging out with Action Kid, and we.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy, and we got to walk around the park again with him and talk about the history of the World's Fair. And Mike did a whole bunch of research into all those different buildings.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that video so that people can see it if they haven't before. Because it was really fun. I mean, I knew that the World's Fair was there, obviously, but I haven't really thought much about it, you know. And just having to spend the time to do a little bit of research and think about it just made me realize that there's this amazing attraction, or like relic of an attraction, whatever you want to call it, that exists in the middle of Queens. And I feel like I said this in the other video, so I'm repeating myself, but it feels like it would be in another city, like the attraction to go see this old fairgrounds, because like it's so aesthetically consistent, and it's like kind of this like, you know, like the future and like you know, space exploration. You know, it was 1964, so like 5 years before we walked on the moon, but only like less than 10 years of the space program existing. You know, so like it was like an age where people were super pumped about space exploration, and then every building that's there like feels spacey, and there's a lot of sculptures that are about like exploring space and like being in the air and things like that, and the Unisphere, you know, and the just also it's like such a big space for New York City. Like it feels like a parade ground, and there's just not a lot of areas in New York City that are like that, you know. But I don't know if I don't even think for most people that are like thinking about New York City, it wouldn't be in the top 10, 15, or 20 like places to go if you're visiting New York City. You know, it's like, oh, Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, Central Park, you know, like Madison Square Garden. You know, you're going to go to all these other places before you go to Flushing. But
Unless if it's during the U.S. Open.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
U.S. Open brings a lot of attention to that place.
Once a year, and it's good that there's at least something that, you know, is bringing all that attention to it. But yeah, I want to go back to Coming to America before we leave it for too much, because there's also a sequel coming out. I don't know if you.
Oh.
Yeah, on Amazon Prime, they're doing Coming to America 2.
What?
So
Yeah.
So there's probably some people here that are maybe tuning in because of that. Maybe they just
plot
watched
is
it.
like something like he comes back.
It's
he
reversed.
Like finds out that he has a kid in New York.
What?
So he like comes back.
Leslie
to get...
Jones is the baby's mama. And he comes back to have like the kid be the heir to his throne. And he's got a daughter back at home that's like, I don't think so. Like, I'm the heir, you know. And then the conflict is between like
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy, kind of like in the first movie, which the first movie is really good. Like it kind of like the last 20, 30 minutes, like they don't end so great. It's like but like the first hour and a half is just like Eddie Murphy like at his top.
Yeah.
And James Earl Jones is his dad, and he's, you know, stuck in his old ways. And so like now he is the guy that's stuck in his old ways. But yeah.
Yeah.
The father figure. Okay.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So I think I'm hopeful for it. You know how I feel like sometimes sequels of older movies that are really good can it can go either way. You know, like it really makes me a little nervous because I feel like sometimes even when it's a really good movie and there's really good people involved, like it can sometimes get too much hype and then be really disappointing. But I'm kind of hopeful for this because I don't think they've actually been hyping it up like all that much. And it's coming out soon. And Eddie Murphy is still just like fantastic.
Yeah, he's very funny.
Right? Like I think he's kept his game strong.
Yeah. And so they basically like it's in the old movie, you know, the first 30 minutes they're in I know it's named after Bob Zamunda, but I forget Zamunda, I think.
Zamunda,
I
I'm
think
pretty
so.
sure is the name of
and then
fake
the rest of the
country.
movie's in New York City, except for the very end. And it looks like it's flipped. Like in this movie, the first half hour is in New York City, and then the rest is in there. But yeah, so I'm kind of excited about it, to be honest. I don't know if it'll be good or not, but we'll see. Yeah. And then so there was one other location we visit on this walk that's related to Coming to America, and it's in very much passing. Lisa has just been, I believe, been told by Eddie Murphy's character, Prince Hakeem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That he is a prince, and for some reason she doesn't like that. She's like it's for the purposes of the plot. She feels like she's been betrayed.
Yeah.
And then she runs away from him, and then like she goes by a car wash. But the car wash, there's still a car wash, right? But it's like totally different. You know, like it had graffiti on it and everything, and now it's just like a boring brown old car wash. So
yeah.
But yeah, we went by and checked it out. It's also on Queens Boulevard, just further down. And yeah.